24. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is The World This Week, and with us is Craig Kopitas of Quartz. Remind us again what Quartz is.
Quartz is the business publication of the Atlantic Group, and we're launching in about 2-3 weeks.
All right,
we'll be covering the world.
Covering the world.
Covering the world.
Okay.
That's what we do. You cover the world.
Régis Le Sommier also covers the world for Paris Match, the French news weekly magazine, which has been around a little bit longer.
63 years.
Celestine Bowen is with us, freelance reporter, and Douglas Herbert, France 24 International Affairs editor. Honestly, it's not often that the non-aligned summit gets this exciting. Now, when we were kids in school, we learned of the 1955 Bandung Conference that led to the 61 initiative of developing nations to counter the East versus West divide of the Cold War. Let's just fast forward to 2012 and the decision to host the summit in Tehran. For Iran, a huge opportunity to break its isolation by the West, what with an A-list of dignitaries flying in, but it didn't all go according to script. Well, first off, there was the UN Secretary General taking his hosts to task over Israel.
I strongly reject threats by any member states to destroy another, or outrageous attempts to deny historical facts such as the Holocaust. Claiming that another UN member state, Israel, does not have the right to exist, or describing it in racist terms, is not only utterly wrong, but undermines the very principles we have all pledged to uphold.
Tell me honestly, Douglas Herbert, is that the feistiest you've ever seen?
Yes, and he's been here at France 24. He was not near. I wish he had been that feisty. No, I mean, it's egg on your face for Iran in the sense, like just at the moment they're hoping to use this as a propaganda exercise. Before Ban Ki-moon had arrived, you had Benjamin Netanyahu actually calling him, lobbying him not to go to this summit. He turned them all down. Everyone's like, oh great, he's going, and he shows up and he's blunt as ever. He basically takes him to task, not just on that, on human rights as well, on the nuclear program. He just ticked down the list of everything that could go wrong for Iran that did go wrong, that he could have brought up.
All right, that was Ban Ki-moon.
Yep.
Then came Egypt's president, Egypt's new president, who had, by the way, no Egyptian president had been to Iran since the Iranian Revolution, breaking the old Sunni-Shiite divide. He dubbed Iran a strategic partner for his country. Important stuff. Iran gets praise from Mohammed Morsi, but not its ally Syria.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a moral duty to stand with the Syrian people against an oppressive regime that has lost its legitimacy.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. That's not what ordinary Iranians heard on state television. France 24's fact-checkers researched the Farsi language translation for Syria. We came up with Surya, pardon the pronunciation. No, instead they heard Bahrain. Several times when Morsi said Syrian revolution, translators came up with Syrian sedition. And this Friday, the domestic press reported that when the Syrian delegation stormed out of the meeting in Ankara, they weren't really storming out. Rather, they were getting up to grant television interviews. The regime now has a problem since pro-Iranian militants at Tehran University have gone on to denounce what Morsi said. It's always a problem when you're having to denounce something that you haven't reported on, Celestine Bowen.
It's called hoist by your own petard, right? Nobody does it. No, I mean, I think it's amazing. And actually, again, I was just in the States to bring the sort of two of our topics together and was watching Fox News, and it was sort of extraordinary in its own right. But it was just what you were saying, how can, the UN Secretary General go? It's an absolute, betrayal, and, this is terrible, and, what is this? And this is, failure of Obama. I mean, they managed to bring all that in. But the point is, I think it's kind of it's sort of a, it's an endorsement of the better to keep talking and drawing them into the debate than excluding them from the debate. I mean, as in, I think his going there is sitting, sort of putting it to them directly and not perhaps in front of their media or their public, But I mean, it'll seep out, it'll leak out, everybody will know, and it's embarrassing, and that's great.
I think you're absolutely right on the fact of bringing them into the debate and having a worldwide conversation. Given by and the tone being set by the Secretary of the United Nations. And I think also for Ban Ki-moon, who's been there for quite a while at the head of the world body, it's also payback. I mean, how many times have we heard Ahmadinejad come to New York and deliver these speeches
and
about,
everybody walking out,
and Chavez, and everybody has to listen. And this time around, he comes to Ahmadinejad land
and in this nice,
says
mild manner. I think it's wonderful because he's not a feisty
for Ban
guy.
Ki-moon, there must have been something he has held personally in him for quite a while.
Right.
It's hard to put a lid on information, and today inside Iran, Craig Kapitas, a lot of people are furious at their own leadership over the way they've been reporting on the non-aligned summit. You got to wonder if Tehran will volunteer to host it again at this point.
The Iranian people over the years have continually been frustrated with false reporting and manipulation and propaganda by the government. It just goes on and on and on and on. But it's the mullahs who have the guns. And what Ban Ki-moon did was terrific. It's the first time I've seen anyone from the UN actually load a weapon and fire. It was wondrous. And let's not forget what Morsi did has equal repercussions. Americans were scared to death of this guy. They forget that he has a PhD from the University of Southern California. They forget that 2 of his children are American citizens. And the fear was that he was going to take his PhD in electrical engineering and go home and make bombs, metaphorical or otherwise, instead of rebuilding Egypt. I think what he said there, particularly there, sends a powerful message to Egyptian skeptics in the United States. It took a lot of guts to do what he did.
And in France, too. I think Morsi has surprised everyone at this point.
Right.
No one was betting that he was going to be able to stand up facing the old military hierarchy. He actually stripped them from nearly all their powers inside Egypt.
And I think this one has the potential of sort of letting a new player enter a debate that has really been stalemated. I mean, I really don't know where it goes from here, but I mean, when you scramble up the players and move them around a little bit, and you've got somebody representing a powerful, important, historically, economically, militarily, a country of that importance coming in and stepping into this debate in front of the mullahs, I think that's...
And just to put this in
it
context...
changes the game.
Yeah, and just to put this in context here, lest anyone still think that Orelsan Morsi was friends with Iran in the first place. I mean, they still do not have diplomatic relations with them. We know that they broke that off in 1979 when they signed the Camp David Accords. They're still on very bad terms with Iran. And the other thing is technically it's sort of, it was his duty to go in a way. He saw it as his diplomatic duty because it was a coincidence in a sense that Iran was hosting it at this time.
He didn't have to call Iran a strategic partner.
But it was only a visit of a few hours. It was sort of a flying visit. He left. Yeah, he left right afterwards. He didn't meet with Khomeini, which is interesting. He did meet with Ahmadinejad. Didn't meet with Khomeini. So maybe he ruffled a few feathers with the supreme leader there. But it's interesting. So it's just careful to make sure that we remind our viewers that Iran and Egypt are still very much estranged in world diplomacy.
And there's no love throughout the region for the Iranians. I mean,
that's
right.
But that he enters the Syrian argument with such force in such a forum, that's the main...
Can he go further? Like, can Morsi be actually a power broker for the region? Because his economy is in dire strait, and he needs the Saudis also, so he can't really, play too much on that.
And the Americans.
Now, where did he go afterwards? He goes to China, to where the money is.
Yeah. But one thing also is interesting is that you see Egypt rising on a diplomatic scale, and Turkey is actually not there. And Turkey it was supposed to be showing muscles, especially regarding to the Syrian crisis, and they're no show. And so maybe Egypt could be, the next.
Turkey's also dealing with all the refugees
that's
right now. It has a
right.
massive refugee problem.
But they don't bring any solutions. Like right now, what Morsi does, he goes straight to Tehran and say, what he has to say about Syria. Interesting.
All right, we will continue to follow that story. Before we go, one that's going to continue to unfold. There's definitely a copyright on the headline of the week, which goes to The Economist. The Economist, which headlines, iPhone, you copy, I sue. That editorial argues not every innovation deserves a patent, not every copycat deserves a punishment. And The Economist went to bed before Samsung got one back on Apple this Friday at Tokyo court, ruling that Samsung did not violate an Apple patent on that syncs mobile devices and computers, taking something of the sting off last week's landmark ruling in the US, which found that the Korean conglomerate basically copied key features of iPhone, including Apple's little rounded corner design on rectangles. That was a huge, huge ruling.
Yeah, I'm split on this ruling, just in the sense that because I'm wondering, there are only so many options when you're designing these things. I mean, a tablet, right? It has to be somehow rounder or rounded. Right. It's going to be maybe rectangular. If you touch a screen, chances are you're going to scroll. There's only a limited number of options. I mean, do you actually have a patent? Can you have a patent on what you could say is almost a universal no-brainer of a design? Now, that said, Apple's probably genius, a lot of people would argue, is the simplicity, the fact that it created something that was so beautiful and so simple at the same time. And maybe that's what it should have patented. But, you could take issue with it. The Economist also, by the way, in that box, they had a box which was Samsung, which was another great headline when they were listing all the patent violations.
But Craig Kapitas, that court case in the U.S., which has been dubbed, perhaps rightfully so, a landmark ruling, is it about Apple being right or Apple having the best lawyers?
Apple having the best lawyers. It struck me that there was more than a soupçon of politics involved in that.
Apple being American and Samsung being Korean?
Well, yeah, but kind of skewed politics. I mean, let's go back to Romney for 1 second. He was calling the ghost of Steve Jobs last night. What he failed to mention, a great American innovator, business. What he failed to mention is all this stuff is made in Southeast Asia, taking lots of those American jobs he wants to bring back. They didn't bring that up.
And that Steve Jobs also got his ideas, like for the mouse, from
that's the way
from Xerox.
That's the way it works. That what I find curious about this, I felt that Apple was a little bit too bullying and hubristic after they won this case in the United States, going nya 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 nya, leaving all these people who have Samsung phones that could be rendered useless, and they have to turn them in. And Apple in the We Conquer All is becoming more like Microsoft or the old IBM. I think
it's not over yet. They're appealing.
It's going to go. But there's some guy sitting in Cupertino, California, in their headquarters, saying, and all these guys who have to get rid of their Samsungs, they're going to come and buy Apples. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's not going to
happen.
No,
it's not
going to happen.
But the message has been delivered.
The message has been delivered, and
that's the point.
The competition is running scared, so say those who follow the industry closely.
Scared that Apple is going to sue them based on these newly validated and quite powerful patents, especially that design patent for the front face of the iPhone. A lot of phones look like that. So anyone with a phone that looks like that is worrying about lawsuits and is trying to redesign their phones to not look like that.
So that's the big question. What are they going to look like? Sort of little rubber balls,
triangular?
or I don't know, tennis rackets. I mean, how do you get away with
Tracy
it?
wristwatch.
That's right.
Blow on them instead of
but I mean, I
touching
think the point is it's in the same Economist article, and I won't find it quickly enough. But I mean, he says, we steal great ideas. I mean, that it's the whole business is a give and take. I mean, and to be a great designer is to take great ideas from all sorts of places, not just your own head.
And
from what you see from art
Apple
galleries.
itself relies on Samsung. It uses Samsung chips and
right,
technology.
There were dozens of lawsuits back in the late 1800s when Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. He almost went bankrupt and all of that. In fact, he got so fed up with it that he went back to teaching the deaf, which was his original job during the Garfield administration, by the way, when that happened. I just thought to point that out to you. So there's nothing new here.
Well, what's new is the sum. And
the sum, yeah,
the
the
sum
amount.
is new, and the fear is new, and the size of the industry that's
It's
now
not that much for Samsung, though, right? The billion.
What's also
I mean,
say-
they can.
No, they have the
yeah,
cash.
but I mean, if you're the little guy who's
You
afraid
you mentioned the sum. Apple's share price, unfazed by Friday's ruling out of Tokyo, again hitting record highs or flirting with them, making it the world's most valuable company ever. When you look at the way Apple stock has shot up over the past 10 years on that chart, Régis Le Sommier, with all business stories, what goes up must come down afterwards. But Apple certainly now
I don't think
becomes
this
the
one's
monolith.
not going to crash. I mean,
This isn't a bubble.
No, Apple's no bubble. No.
No, it's no bubble. I mean, the thing with what's probably going to happen is that the Samsung case was a sort of run-up for a bigger case that's going to happen, a bigger fight's going to happen between Apple and Google. That's two different philosophy. One is about property, the other one is about being open. So it's going to be a huge fight, I think, between those two on a much bigger scale than what we've just seen.
The winner in this is Nokia.
Yeah,
The winner in this is Nokia, which has been, in the doldrums. They got this new deal with Microsoft. Every deal has a winner and a loser. Samsung, at the moment, we'll see the appeal. Samsung short-term market, is the loser. I haven't looked at Nokia's stock, but this has got to be helping Nokia.
All right, a hot tip there from Craig Kapitas. And
I don't know how hot it is. Lukewarm.
Lukewarm. Okay, lukewarm. I was already a disclaimer. Anyway,
There it goes.
we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank you, Craig Kapitas. I also want to thank Celestine Bowen, Régis Le Sommier, and Douglas Herbert. Thank you for joining us here in The World This Week.
Join us in Mumbai, a city where rickshaws share the road with luxury four-wheel drives, evidence of the two worlds that coexist in India. Economic growth and new technology have put development here on the fast track. But what is the impact of this on public health? Join us on Health to find out.
Don't miss Health, Sunday 11:45 a.m. Paris time on France 24.